this series continues to be possible because of the engagement and commitment of Carol Gay. And we all owe a collective debt of gratitude to Carol for continuing to make this possible for us every month. It has been one of the most enriching aspects of the quarantine, the virtual congregational experience that we've had. Carol, thank you so much for what you're doing, and I'll turn it over to you now.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Well, our speaker for today is Ron Spake. He's been a member of our community for 6 years, and during that time, he's done a lot of volunteer work for us. Some of his favorite things are being a facilitator for discovery circles. He's been a mentor in coming of age, and he just mentioned going biking for 30 miles yesterday. So he is also a co-leader of our biking group. So I know you want to hear from Ron. He'll speak to us for about 20 minutes. And during that time, if you think of any questions you want to ask him, you can write them in the chat function at the bottom of your screen in the middle. And so type in any questions you have during that time or after he speaks, either way. And then he concludes, I'll read each question to him and he'll respond, and we can have 10 minutes for that. So Ron, I'm going to turn everything over to you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Carol. Thanks for the opportunity to share my credo today. And sometimes when you're talking about yourself, it's sort of difficult, but I found that in doing my credo, it was a very emotional and spiritual journey that sometimes I had to look back and think about things I hadn't thought about for a while. So I was asked to give my credo about what do I give my heart to and how did I get there? I'm going to start with my religious affiliations and my religious convictions growing up. Baptist affiliations were very prominent in my family growing up, at least to the age of 7. Here I learned the basic fundamentals of religion and the many Bible stories that still resonate with me today. I attended Sunday school and worship service as well as vacation Bible school while living with my beloved grandmother, Bessie. While my parents were divorced and later I lived with my mother, religion was totally non-existent in her house. But at the age of 9, I went to live with my father, who had remarried, and both he and his wife were very highly active in the Lutheran Church. As I began to attend this new and unusual faith, I started realizing that maybe this is definitely what I needed as a child to fill that church void that my friends had that I did not. I became active in all aspects of the congregation: Sunday school, vacation Bible school, junior choir, Luther League, and serving as an acolyte. It was quite impressive. It was so impressive that I grew in the church even after 3 years of catechism. Yes, 3 years learning and memorizing Luther's small catechism. I became so intrigued that I thought the ministry was exactly what I wanted to do. At least I thought. College was totally out of the picture in our house after high school, as work became an exception, not a suggestion. But I worked 2 jobs, not counting the farm duties on my days off, which were few and far between. To skip forward a few years, as an adult, I remained very active in the Lutheran Church, still serving where needed. In my late 30s, I finally completed my undergraduate degree from Lenoir University. It was a Lutheran university. My advisor thought that I should enter the seminary and become a Lutheran minister. Strange, the same thought in my youth. He challenged me in many ways, but quote unquote, "You have what we need to lead us forward," seemed to be his goal for my future. So I applied to the seminary and with his help and started the process. It was during my internship after 6 months of grueling unpaid work, serving in ministerial capacities at my home congregation and filling pulpits in the local congregations throughout the county. I was sitting in a service one Sunday and I began to think about what I was doing, or worse yet, what I was planning to do. I began to realize that there was no way I could do this. My thoughts were, why am I even here? It seems that all I've done in the church is work, 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 and hearing the other side of the proverbial ministry coin of knowing what not to say and believe and what not to say, both inside and outside of the pulpit. I best change my career path. I left the Lutheran tradition that next spring and fell in the arms of the Baptist faith. Wow. Now that was an unexpected turn of events, especially at this point in my life, as I was married with 4 children, working my way up the corporate ladder in my second career at Nations Bank. I discovered something about myself that I suspected all along. Yep, I was gay in the Baptist church. Oh Lord, that was another turn of events I wasn't expecting. But in reality, admitting I was gay at the encouragement of my psychologist, it felt much better to say it and hear it than to keep pretending that I was someone other whom I pretended to be, a happily married heterosexual. All my life, I felt that my problems were a result of how I was treated, as well as my reaction, but that I was nothing more than everyone in my world expected me to be. Ownership of my life was not in my hands. I just accepted the way my small inferior world was, and the horrible treatment was just normal, and that I had no control, so just live with it and move on. I took a step back immediately after my divorce, and a horrible divorce it really was. I decided that now that I'm free from the bondage of marital anguish, I'm now going forward and to reinvent myself. Doggone it, it's my life, my story, my career, and I'm the master of my own destiny. I took hold of who I was and what I was, and I ran with it, at least for a short while. Now, without reinventing the wheel about the gory details of being gay and married, yes, after the divorce, I moved on and tried to turn my life around again. Not an easy task, but I managed to get some control better than the past. But let me begin with several situations that changed my life. Meeting Randall. Coming into my life unexpectedly, he accepted me as I was, flaws and all. And we all know how that turned out. 21 years later, we're more in love today than we were at the beginning of our relationship. So I will move forward. With my religious beliefs in limbo and my lack of acceptance in the Baptist church, I abandoned what once was a major part of my identity, church affiliation. I remained churchless for around 5 years. I felt something was missing at this point. Church just was not on my radar. The next experience that changed me and when I found the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. This was and still is a pivotal moment in my hectic, chaotic life. I remember on my first visit to this community on that Sunday in June of 2014, I picked up a small card from the visitors table, the one with the principles on it, and I stuck it in my pocket and I went on my merry way, chatting warmly with members, or I assume members, of the Unitarian Universalist Church during coffee hour. Leaving Freeman Hall that morning, I felt something or someone placed me in that moment for a specific reason, but I didn't know why. And after my experiences in congregations of the Protestant faith, I was just a little skeptical about this community. I knew very little about Unitarian Universalism, and especially Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte. But for some reason, I felt accepted and welcome. That evening, as I was sitting in my chair in my living room, I took that card from my table where I placed it upon coming home, and I began looking over it. And the first principle hit me like a whirlwind. I lost my place here. Let me find, okay. Oh, excuse me. The inherent worth and dignity of each and every person. My first thought was, really? That can't be true. Really? Me? Am I really worth something? Really? It actually sounded too good to be true. So I read all of the principles at that time, hoping to find more sustenance and hope. As I sat there, I was stunned. Maybe, just maybe, this is where I really belong, but I didn't want to pretend to be something I was not, just to belong to another church organization. But I returned the next Sunday and started my religious, or rather questioning religious beliefs in a new environment among new people by leaving my pretend mask from fear and judgment in this place, new and unknown environment. I left it at home. I was hoping that the first principle was actually in place in reality and factual within these walls. It was here that I was welcomed, all of me. And today I serve faithfully and both physically and financially to this community. Moving forward, this new church challenged me on that very first Sunday as a visitor. It was the first Sunday of the summer series, Thinking Outside of the Box. Wow. After over 6 years, I still refer to that service as a very life-changing moment. The Board of Trustees was sending us on a new venture, one which greatly influenced a newcomer to UUCC. That evening, as I read over the principles again, acceptance of one another stuck out to me for some reason. But the fourth principle really rocked my world, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Wow. There that night, I really changed courses, and the spirituality and gratitude began to lead my life moving forward. And I lost my place again. Leading my life moving forward for the first time. Later, after much thought, I felt committed and compelled to move forward in this newfound religious community. Following the idea from the fourth principle, I jumped into reading and studying about real gratitude and how every moment of my life should be filled with gratitude. After all, my life was getting just a little bit better each and every day. I began to realize that even the horrible things that supposedly wrecked my life and I blamed on others, they had a sunny side to them. And it was up to me, just me, to move on. I began to incorporate gratitude as my primary way of thinking outside the box and turning the misery around and using it as a positive. Reading and studying the principles, I realized that they are daily actions, not just a creed to be mumbled on each and every worship service. They encourage me to initiate a daily list of rules to live by for my own perseverance and sanity. And I would like to share some of those with you this morning. Many times each day, I tell Randall that I love him and I hug him because he loves me unconditionally, and I too love him the same. Even here at the UUCC, he is known by his name. Unlike other religious communities in which I was engaged, he was only known as my friend. So thanks for loving him and recognizing our relationship as well. Gratitude prevails. I do 2 gratitude lists each and every day, and more if needed. I had a young man in the program that I was mentoring, and I asked him to do a gratitude list twice a day for 3 months, because after that, hopefully it would become a habit. I wanted him to do one at bedtime prior to going off to sleep and one when he wakes up in the morning. He looked at me weirdly and he said, "That's crazy. Why a gratitude list when I wake up and I've been in the bed all night and I did it just before I went to sleep?" And I said, "Congratulations, you've done a great job. You've just named 2 reasons to be grateful. You woke up and you slept in a bed. Yes, I do 2 lists every day. It's a major part of my spirituality. I compliment at least 2 people every day, sincerely, other than Randall, but I do them not just to clear the numbers, but to look at the beauty of others inside my world. Many times I've complimented people, and prior to the pandemic, it's amazing how many people reciprocate with a hug, a smile, and a thank you so much, or you just made my day. And I respond to them, yes, and you made mine too. Most of you here at UUCC know that I'm a hugger, and I miss that so much. But remember, it's a sincere hug. It's not a habit, because I cherish being in your world. So thank you for loving me. And again, gratitude prevails. I take care of myself each day. I love togetherness, and I enjoy alone time. I love to bike, and nothing soothes me more than breathing in the breeze and smelling the damp, fresh air in the wooded areas and hearing the popping of small gravels under my tires while riding on dirt roads. Here I reminisce of my youth growing up on the farm, and I count my blessings for that experience of farm life because it's helped me to understand with gratitude the web of life and the interrelationship of us all. Creeks and water are a passion of mine. Sitting alone on the rustling creek side, listening and hearing the sounds of nature soothes my soul and fills me with gratitude just for being part of this wonderful web of life. Meeting people unlike myself in various places, having coffee with strangers uptown, talking with people in the tent cities as I ride my bike, just talking to people, or just to name a few. The ability to ride my bike and enjoy life, joyous, happy, and free. Acceptance of one another. I avoid unnecessary conflict. I stay away from negative and highly contagious people. I interface to a small degree, but when I feel my peace and serenity are being challenged, all I have to do is say bye. Watching TV, listening to radio, social media, they're all limited as much as possible. Even though there's negativity there, does not mean I have to participate. Sure, I stay up to date and current, but I actively maintain a distance from gory and derogatory details that have potential to infiltrate my peace and serenity. I stay engaged in community and serve others as much as I can and desire to do so. As we are all dependent on one another, as one of our principles state, it's imperative that I'm whole and complete within myself. Being comfortable in my own skin and soul places me in a position to be of service to others. If I'm whole and at peace, I'm an asset to society, not a burden. I volunteer and serve not for personal gain and recognition, but to fulfill the mission that I'm called to do. Serve with gratitude and love others. Spending hours deep listening to a youth coming out story and fears. Deep listening to a trans youth share the trials and the issues they face every day so I can become a better advocate. My spirituality and gratitude allow me to do these wonderful things. I read, I study, and I listen. Free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Reading opens up many avenues for me. Learning to read with an open mind serves me well. Whether it be a social justice book, historical events, biographies, or poetry. Just the ability and the freedom to read my choice of material without being told what to believe enlightens my life. Coming to the UUCC has not just expanded my experiences in life. My library too is much, much more diverse and satisfying. I cherish the phrase, "to thine own self be true." This is very important to me each and every day. Being true to myself allows me to be true to those I love, those who challenge me, and those whom I do not know very well. But if I'm true to myself and whole in body and spirit, then I can do what I give my heart to, and that is serving where needed, filled with gratitude. To me, gratitude and spirituality are connected, and that's how I find peace to soothe my heart and soul, so that I'm able to serve others and make a difference in this web of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron. Um, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. My connection stable this morning. We are very glad that the UU principles really spoke to you and that you found us here. So now I'm inviting everybody to go and enter a question down in the chat function if you'd like to. I already have one question, which I'll read to Ron. And it says, what effect does your Protestant background still have on you?
I take pride in my Protestant upbringing. I would never criticize my Protestant upbringing because it's made me who I am. It set the foundation, and it's helped me become a better Unitarian Universalist because our sources pull from all the religions, and it's made me understand that I can play from the both worlds. In UUism, I don't have to worry about being told what to believe. That's my responsibility. But I do rely on my Christian and Protestant upbringings because of the moralistic value that I had growing up, and I needed that. And I still listen. I still listen to sacred music. I love country gospel. I love to listen to hymns, choral hymns. I still hold on to that, and I still reflect to the Bible. I don't believe it as I did when I was growing up, but I'm looking at it as a whole new perspective, especially after going into seminary. I learned that you look at it a different way. So yes, I do hold on to those values.
All right, here's another question. This is from Jay. He says, thanks for this, Ron. I've been so impressed with your commitment to Time Out Youth. How has that impacted you?
If you had asked me 7 years ago about a trans youth prior coming to the UUCC, I would have given you a different answer. But going to Time Out Youth opened a whole new world for me. I got to learn firsthand. I got to hear stories that I only heard the negative side of. But when I started hearing those youth, I became bonded to those youth. They changed. I'm a much more strong advocate now. They made me think about my own internal self. They asked me questions about my growing up gay, having families. I tell them the whole story. And those youth, we depend on each other. And how has it changed my life? It's made me a very strong advocate. I've shut down conversations at the Y before of people talking about HB2 or whatever it was. And I just told them, I said, look, guys, nothing you said is true. Do you know a trans person? No, I don't. Well, then you don't know what you're talking about. I do. I work with them. I sit with them. So yes, it gives me a chance to really be a stronger advocate rather than just being knowledgeable. I'm a stronger advocate because of Time Out Youth. That's a very impressive piece that we have in our community. And I hope so soon it opens back up. So, okay.
Okay, here's one more question. How has your family reacted to your embrace of Unitarian Universalism?
Well, my children have always said I was a rebel anyway, because I did break from the Lutheran church to go to the Baptist church. I am gay, I do things. They've never really said about me going to the Unitarian Universalist church. The only thing they knew about it was I had an individual at Emmanuel Lutheran Church where I was a member. In fact, he was a member of the board. He was the president of the board years ago at UUCC. And the only thing I knew about Unitarian Universalism at that time was it's a strange religion. So I thought it was, but I think they've embraced it. They have really, I think when we talk about it, they're okay with it. They just think it's strange that I was going into the ministry in the Lutheran church and was a Christian, and all of a sudden I'm into this weird religion, as they call it, to a degree. So they've embraced it. So yes, I'm very fortunate in my family. My father didn't understand it wasn't a Baptist tradition, but he got over it. So he said,
Okay.
is it like the Baptist church? I said, oh no.
All right, this is going to have to be our last question. It says, it sounds like a large part of your spirituality is about deep connection to people. Was that always a part of who you were?
I've always been an extrovert. I love people. I love to talk to people. That's why I think I did so well in the businesses I was in both the retail grocery business as well as the banking business. I love to interface with people. I love to start conversations with people. I try to be sincere, and I love the fact, and I'll close with this, that one of the things I have learned from discovery circles is deep listening. That's the most important part of any conversation I have with a stranger, is to listen deeply to what they say and not try to change or correct anything. Just listen. The youth at Time Out Youth, they just want me to listen, and that's all I do. So yes.
Well, so much, Ron. Our time is about up. I'm so glad that you found us, and that
Me too.
from today you inspire me to be more grateful all the time. And I love this opportunity for us to get to know some of our members in a more personal way. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your doing this today.
It was a humbling experience. Thank you very much. And I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I love you all and miss you all.
All right. I want to remind you that next month is December, and we don't typically do Credo. So we won't be doing it in December, but come back in January on the 4th Sunday, and you will get to hear from Andos Helms.
Great.
So, okay. So thank you, everybody. I know there's more going on the chat screen, and I wish we could handle it. Maybe you can still chat with each other for a few minutes. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Everybody, thank you so much.